Healing the father wounds. A lot of what we're bringing into our relationships has to do with our relationship with our father and our mother's relationship with our father. So, if you know me or if you don't, I am 𝐂𝐡𝐢𝐥𝐝, a transformative emotional mastery coach, a board certified nurse coach, single mother to 3 boys, and fierce, loving mother to my inner child now since 2021. My intention for you is to walk away with a sense of compassion for yourself because that's who needs the healing. That's who needs the compassion. It's actually not dad, it's you. Let's start with what is the father wound? This is a term in the healing space. The father wound refers to the emotional pain and patterns that stem from our early relationship with our fathers. These experiences can deeply influence our self-worth, our self-esteem, our behaviors, our patterns of doing, our relationships in adulthood. How impactful is this early relationship with our father? Or in a lot of our cases, non-relationship with our father, whether our fathers were just present in body, but not in energy or spirit or emotion, right? Or if they were absent, or if we were abandoned. When we think of the father wound, the biggest thing is abandonment, is absence, is him not being present, or kind of worse yet, just him being indifferent, right? Think of all the stories we made up as children because our fathers were just not that into us, right? We like weren't their thing. We weren't their job. We were mom's job, and their job was something different, providing usually. Our relationship with our father is one of the first and most influential connections in our lives. I really want you to kind of like pull back and really think about this objectively, right? How he interacted with us, met us, or didn't meet our needs, and how he coped with life greatly impacted how we view ourselves and how we view men and how we are in relationship. Your love blueprint. What is this? Your love blueprint that was given to you in life was your mother's and father's relationship. Okay, so whether you liked it or you didn't, whether you declared, I'm not going to have a relationship like mom and dad has, I'm not going to be that way, I'm not going to attract in a man that was like dad, or whatever you're saying to yourself, whenever we're operating from a place of fear of, we tend to create it in our lives. So if you're noticing that there's a pattern in your relationships and that you're attracting in the same dynamic, the same dance, as we call it, just know that this stems from this love blueprint that you saw. And when we bring fear into an equation and we act and behave in fear of, we just tend to create it in our lives. That is the paradox of being human. So a child is completely dependent on their parents for survival. Okay. We don't know what's healthy, what's unhealthy, what's normal, what's not normal. We don't know that as children. We only know what we are born into. So you were born into a home. There was a relationship from mom and dad that was a role model relationship, that was your love blueprint. And the way dad interacted with you or didn't was the norm for you. Children survive through adapting. Humans survive for generations through adapting. So you adapted to what was normal in your home. Surviving and adapting to the environment inside your childhood home was essential. And it's why you're here today, right? You couldn't survive if you didn't adapt. The thing we don't know as children is that what is happening may or may not be healthy. So my own personal father wound, which I'll just share a little bit. My dad was in my life up to age 5, and then he left. He left me, my brother, and my mom in New Jersey. He moved to another state. And up till age 5, what I didn't know about my dad was that he was a textbook narcissist. And I was his golden child. Okay. My brother and mother were like the scapegoats. They were like crap on the bottom of his shoe, but I was the golden child. And that relationship with him up to age 5 was very, very impactful. When I've done my work and I've gone back, I've realized that when he left, he was my God. Literally, he was the one I felt safe around. And when he left, my whole world was shattered. That age 5 father abandonment wound, basically what happened there was the pleaser. I was the best little pleaser. I knew exactly how to please dad. I did whatever he said. If he loved that I was a good eater, I ate 2 plates of food, past the point of fullness. I did whatever he loved or liked. I just was fiending for that love bombing from him. So when he left, that pleaser became a rebel. Like, I was like, oh my God, he left me. I did something wrong. I made it my fault. And I became this rebel from that moment on. And I didn't know what was about to happen was the worst of it, where my mother would actually bring in. So my dad was a narcissist, but my stepfather was a sadistic sociopath. And there was a lot of violence and torture about to happen in the home for me and my brother. So I did not know that at the time, but this rebel behavior carried on and got worse and worse and worse throughout my life into my early 20s. And looking back, I realized, like, ooh, I'm almost grateful that that was my survival pattern, because I kind of needed it in what was happening in the home. Unfortunately, my brother's survival pattern was not that. His survival pattern was just to be as invisible and as small and as compliant as possible. So he got it the worst from my stepfather. But that's just a little bit about my own personal father wounds. And like my relationship with him after that, we would only see him here and there, and like I saw him on his deathbed a couple of years ago. But I want to say that healing is possible at any stage, because my dad is deceased and moved on, and I have since healed from my father wounds and discovered that he is one of my guardian angels. And I was kind of mad when I first discovered that. I was really resentful and angry and like had a huge like enrage release. But I have now created this relationship with my father in the afterlife that is healthy and loving, and more healthy and loving than ever. So you can do this work at any stage, whether your dad is here or not. Okay. And if he's not here, you actually get to create the relationship with him that you've always dreamed of. So that's my story. And I just wanted to share a little bit about my father wound. And how does this show up in our adult life? So the father wound that I explained to you showed up through a very disorganized but heavily avoidant attachment style. So I just decided, like, screw men, like men love you and leave you, or they hurt you. They're these authoritative, dominating figures. Women are slaves to men. Like, all of these stories were embodied by me. So I decided, like, be as manly as possible and to not give a shit about anyone or anything. And, you know, that's kind of how it showed up for me. It also created like a hyper independence and a strong, strong hyper achieving drive to succeed, because that was always like where my value and worth was, in my doing, in my achieving, in my succeeding, in being hyper independent and like not needing anyone. But little did I know that there was this angry victim underneath all of that achieving and doing and like resentment. And, when you're kind of moving, a lot of women actually tend to sort of internalize anger, but you can, if you're like me, you're more of an externalizer and you kind of project it on everyone. You kind of move through life just pissed off all the time. And that's how this father wound showed up for me. So what contributes to this wound is we've lived in patriarchal societies for generations and generations. And this is in our blood, our DNA. It said that we carry 15 generations in our DNA. Okay. So this is in us as women, and fathers have typically been authoritarian. Women have been deemed less than, and fathers have, as far as what's expected of them, it has been very minimal. Their jobs are not the kids, like we said, and we've all contributed to this. And it's just produced men that are uninvolved, detached, emotionally uninvolved, where the kids are just not their jobs. But this isn't true. What our needs are as kids, I'm going to tell you what your emotional needs were, and you can think back where they met. Number one, safety and security. This is about feeling safe physically, emotionally, psychologically. A healthy masculine energy provides that safety, right? I remember I felt that when my dad was around, I felt safe around my dad. No one else did, right? But I felt safe in his presence. He just made me feel loved and made me feel safe up to the age of 5, right? But just think, did your dad provide that for you? If your dad was a raging alcoholic or a drug addict or a gambling addict, like my stepfather was, you didn't know what version of him you were going to get when he walked in the door. And what that produced was a chronic unsafety in most likely your gut that you're probably still carrying today. As I work with many women that still have this, and we thread it back, it goes back to dad. You know, that something will happen in the present with their husbands and we'll thread it back and it goes back to dad, right? We still have this in our subconscious. There's nothing wrong with us. This is just what our psyches do. They kind of hold on to these stories for decades and decades and decades. So again, safety, security. Number two, autonomy and control. Were you given autonomy and free to make choices? Or was your dad highly authoritative? Was it right or wrong? Was it black or white? Was it like, be a good girl or you're a bad girl, right? So many women that I work with were the black sheep in their family. And they either, most of them became the pleaser compliers, right? But what they're holding inside of them, they're holding in that rage and that anger. So just know rage and anger from being made to do things that we didn't want to do and complying, and like the injustice of having to become that pleaser can healthily be expressed in adulthood, and it will really set you free. Connection and belonging. Okay. We required this as kids. So those of you that felt like you were the black sheep in your family, that there's a wound there. We really required to feel like we belong as we are. And what kids are experiencing a lot is dilemma. They will always prioritize attachment before authenticity. So kids are naturally just joyful, wild, playful, like, right? A kid's job, if we get him, what's a kid's job? Kid's job is to come into the world and play and learn. Okay. So play is a necessity. It is a need as a kid. And how many of us didn't play? We were, made to kind of work in some way, or we had to take care of our mothers or our fathers. And even if you're looking back on adulthood and being like, oh, that wasn't true, it was true for that little kid part of you. You really took on that responsibility and you had no business taking on that responsibility. But kids don't understand that. Kids naturally are egocentric, so they make everything their fault. Everything that's happening around the kid is their fault. That's just what kids do. Okay. And they also, again, they don't know what they don't know. They're always making meaning of what's happening around them, making it their fault. Kids also don't know what they don't know about their maturity level. So kids naturally think they're supposed to know something, or they're supposed to be emotionally able to handle what's happening when they're actually not. They're not developmentally at that stage yet. Kids require co-regulation with their parents. So just know that, whether you have kids and you're a parent, or when you were a kid, you were co-regulating with those big people. You were actually looking to their nervous systems and syncing up with them. So how was your dad? How was your mom? I just think back, like my mom was completely invisible. She was pretty much invisible and dissociated for most of my life. So she had almost no presence. Like you couldn't energetically feel her presence. So there's a mother wound there for me as well. But my mom was just never there energetically. My stepfather was just, oh my God, there was just like so much, like I was always just afraid every day. Like it was like clockwork after school, walking home, like just stomach pain, right? Just go walking into the unsafety, not knowing what you're going to get. And then like, if he was calm, it was like, oh, like you could relax, right? Most of us with alcoholic parents remember that. Again, mine wasn't an alcoholic, but he was a rageaholic. and a gambler and a sadist. So, if you came in and he was just in that nasty mood and he had that evil smile on, it was just like, ugh, we just don't know what's in store for us, right? So just think, as a kid, how were your parents, right? If we had those anxious moms or those angry moms, right? I'm talking about the father wound, right? But just both parents. But think of your dad and how was he emotionally? You were syncing up with that, whatever that was. Okay. So again, how does this show up in our lives? Okay. Beliefs about ourselves, beliefs about others, beliefs about the world, and beliefs about God. Okay. We formed major beliefs that you're still running a program in your subconscious to this day, right? And just think about, what are some of the beliefs that you formed based on your relationship with your father or your non-relationship with your father? It's easy for me. Men are unsafe. Men are unpredictable. Men can't be depended on. Men are evil, right? And cheat. Women are subservient. Women are slaves. Like, just even these are all like the real deal beliefs that I formed, that I was holding in my nervous system, right? No wonder why I was walking around just like a ticking time bomb, like ready to explode, because these were the beliefs that I formed from this very impactful relationship that stemmed at that trauma of father abandonment, right? And just think about, what are the beliefs that you formed about yourself, about the world, right? I need to achieve. I need to achieve my worth. I need to drive forward, or I need to please. I need to comply. I need to caretake, right? We can fall into both of these patterns. We can flip flop, right? This is when most of the women that I coach have combination survival strategies of pleaser perfectionist, pleaser perfectionist. So that perfectionist really like drives a lot of time. There's like a driver in that, and a high achiever. And the pleaser is the caretaker, right? And there's some maybe flip-flopping or going back and forth between both of them. And they can show up differently for everyone. But just think of, do you feel like you're chronically never good enough? And that is my core belief. We have a bucket of beliefs that we walk away from. And if I could narrow it down to two for myself, it was like, I'm not good enough, right? It's never good enough. It always goes back to that for me. And I'm inherently bad. That was mine. Some others are, I'm not good enough. I'm inherently bad. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy. Those are like core bucket of beliefs. So just think, what are yours? What are running in the background? And the way you can figure this out is through your triggers. So what really triggers you in the present, like really triggers you, like 0 to 10, like, and puts you in whatever that pattern is that you get in when you're triggered, whether you're like an external projector like me and your impulse is to yell and scream and shout at someone, or if your impulse is to just internalize and push it in and push it down, or are you the avoider, right? And you just avoid and pretend like nothing's happening. Just know that you're triggered. You're in a survival pattern of behavior, okay? And there's one of these core beliefs that was just triggered. I walk in the door. I've asked my kids 10 times to load the dishwasher before I get home from work. And here it is, the 11th day, it's not done. And I just freak, right? I just get triggered. And what is it triggering? Nobody loves me. I'm unlovable. Nobody gives a shit, right? What do I say to myself? No one gives a shit. No one cares what I say. No one listens to me. No one helps me, right? That's what I'm saying in my head. But the feeling is, I'm just completely unlovable. Nobody sees or hears what I say. No, like, right? It doesn't matter. And just someone didn't load the dishwasher. But it's triggering that core belief that stems from these very impactful relationships with our parents. So how do we heal, right? And the misconception is that dad needs to heal me. Dad needs to apologize. Dad needs to change. Dad needs to admit or validate what I was experiencing, or that he was wrong. And I want to say, no, you don't need any of that. You need nothing from dad to heal the wounding from whatever his fathering inflicted on you. What you need is come to the truth, to come home to that very vulnerable part of you that's still in your subconscious and still wounded, your inner child, okay, that still believes she needs something from dad because she exists in your adult body, in your 40, 50, 60-year-old body. I've introduced the inner child to 21-year-olds and 72-year-olds and everything in between, okay? And what it takes is for you to disidentify and acknowledge and validate that very vulnerable part of you that's holding that core belief that she's unworthy, that she's unlovable, that she's not good enough. And you become the father, right? The safety and security, the provider, the limits and structure, setting those boundaries, telling her what it is she always longed to hear from dad that she never heard. Okay. You become that loving father inside yourself. And it doesn't matter that you're a woman or a man. We need to create different parts of ourselves that we always needed in childhood and never got. So we get to have the childhood we never had in adulthood because we heal that child by being the mother we never had, the father we never had, the encouraging voice we never had. We get to embody and integrate worthiness, love, that you have intrinsic value and worth just as you are. And we get to shift and change those beliefs by not invalidating that child, but by actually validating her, by having a healthy outrage, by not telling her she's wrong for feeling and thinking what she's feeling and thinking. Yes, dad may have loved you, but you didn't experience that. Your truth of your experience is I'm an unloved, unwanted child. So we need to stop making it, but dad did love me, and we're looking back as an adult and we're kind of poo-pooing the child. No, we need to understand, like, wow, like, regardless of what dad was thinking and intending inside himself, I experienced how dad showed up, right? How dad was an alcoholic, how dad had nothing to do with me, how, me and my dad almost, right? So many, like, they didn't even talk to their dads, or they could never do right. What if you were the youngest? Like my one client is the youngest in like family of seven. And, she was a girl and boys were, again, deemed different in the family. And she was just unseen, unheard chronically, like what she had to say didn't matter. So she took away this belief that, like, I don't matter, right? We need to let that child know, no, you matter and you always have. And nothing that dad ever did or didn't do was a reflection of you, right? Because kids are making it, dad doesn't love me, I'm unworthy. Dad doesn't love me, I'm unlovable. Dad wants nothing to do with me. Dad wanted a boy, not a girl, right? We create all these stories and we need to acknowledge and validate, wow, that child did what she needed to do to survive. And I love her. And now she's my responsibility, not dad's. No, you don't need dad anymore. You've got me. I've got you. And you know what? You want to cry, you want to scream, you want to shout, you want to be angry. Let's have a healthy outrage, not at dad, right? In the comfort and safety of our therapy container, our coaching container, going to like a release, right? Where we can move it through. I do this in my coaching container. I'm going to do this in my inner child healing workshop. We're going to move through our shame and our rage healthily so that we can release it. And you know what this does? This frees you of what you're still carrying. That's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is not, oh, it's okay that dad did what he did, because I'm just going to say, for me personally, no, none of what I experienced was okay. None of what I experienced was okay. And I've healed from it because I've let go of the shame and the shit that I was carrying and holding myself hostage to, right? I've let that go. And that, a side effect of that, has brought me closer to these people. But you have to let go of, I need to forgive dad. No, you don't. You need to forgive yourself, and you need to forgive your child self for doing what she needed to do to survive. Okay, so that is real forgiveness and real healing. I just want to conclude by really bringing it home and driving it home that forgiving your dad actually is a healing journey for you. and the vulnerable, wounded inner child that's still running the show in your nervous system. And only you have what she needs. Nobody else does. Okay. I'm working with a client right now who actually is working through something, and it involved sibling abuse. Okay. And she had a conversation with her brother, and her brother apologized, and her brother admitted to it. He did not deny it. And this was very positive for her, but she's like still stuck in it. And because we're still wounded, just because somebody else apologizes and takes ownership, that is amazing and great and helpful. And it is not the thing that that child inside you needs, because the wound is still there, even with the apology. And the only one that can heal the wounds that you're still carrying is you, right? She hasn't forgiven herself for what she did to survive in that situation. And that's where her work is. So I want to tell you, I know that your work is coming home to that vulnerable part of you. There's nothing wrong with her. She matters. She's good enough. She's been worthy the whole time. She's been loved the whole time. She is not alone. And the way that we heal this child is by coming home to her and becoming the mother, the father, the healer, the teacher, the encourager, the loving force that you always needed and never got. And this is how you redo childhood in adulthood and come back to the authentic part of you that believes she can be Wonder Woman, that is creative, that wants to play. There's two sides to the inner child, and one is the wounded side. The other is the authentic side, the confident, courageous, calm, creative, connected, loving force. And I just want to ask, do you remember her? Do you remember before the trauma, before the wounding, before those beliefs came in? Do you remember feeling liberated and free, like you can do anything? I just want to say, if you can or if you can't, that part of you exists. And I want to invite you on a journey with me, May 2nd to 4th, Inner Child Healing, a liberating journey to self-love and empowerment. There is no greater way to make a huge change in your life, in any part of your life, than to come home to this very vulnerable part of you that basically has been waiting for you the whole time, and become her hero, her mother, her father, and give her what she always needed and never got. So I hope you join me for that. I've got 9 spots left, and I'm really looking to fill these 9 spots. God put this on my heart to do this work, and I want to find those that it's meant for. And I know if you're here today, that that's you. This is going to be the first of its kind. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be an immersive weekend, and you're going to get to experience a heart opening like never before, and coming home to the part of you that has been waiting for you the whole time. She holds all of your power, authenticity, and capability to follow your dreams. You get to be coached and watch others get coached throughout, and you will be guided deeper and more powerfully to this part of yourself in a safe, loving space. There is a space for healing, and it is very important. And I'm going to provide that for you so that you can go deeper than you've gone before, so that you can walk away with that intention that you're bringing in. You can walk away different after an immersive weekend than you came in. I'm also offering special bonuses right now if you take one of these 9 spots. And they are, number 1, you get a special bonus Q&A post-retreat call to help integrate back into life after this retreat. Okay. And when you sign up and join today, giving you a post one-to-one coaching session with me to help you personally integrate your inner child into your current life. And we can get into whatever is very specific for you, and it's different for everyone. And that's why I'm offering this. And this is valued at $500, but I'm giving it away as a special bonus. Okay. And finally, when you check out and pay today, you get a $100 discount off the investment by entering the coupon code 100OFF, 100OFF. So I'm open for any questions. If you want to chat with me, you can hit me up in the DMs or drop the word chat right here. But I'm going to drop a link. I created a landing page that has all the information on there, and you can just go ahead and check out today. Pretty much have all the information. But if there's anything specific to you that I haven't covered, reach out to me, please, because if you're feeling the tug to come into this, then that's for a reason. Then you're meant to come into this, and I want you in there. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to leave the link for you to click and check it out and the coupon code. And please reach out to me. If this is not for you, could you please share this? Because I really want those 9 people to come in the next 9 days. And you just might change someone else's life that really, really needs this. All you got to do is click the share button. I would so appreciate that. Okay, everyone. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And if you have any questions, I'm here.